There's a cause and a reason for every seemingly random event transpiring in your life. Alright, there is a cause and a reason for every seemingly random event transpiring in your life. Ciao. Huh? If you're not familiar, my name is Isaiah Washington. I go by Wolf. And this podcast, titled You Don't Deserve to Die, is meant to surround mental health, suicide prevention, but as a whole, my main focus is just to provide someone with the understandings that I have in my life that allow me to flow through, that allow me to understand, that allow me to progress, that allow me to understand stress, the things that are transpiring in my life that are trying to lead me in the proper way. And today it's the chaos theory. Yeah, today it's understanding that everything connects, every event, every person that you're meeting, everything that you perceive to be negative in your life, positive, whatever it is, those little seconds that add up that eventually prepare you. And what sparked this, I had a conversation the other day. I was on my way to work, I was in my Uber, and I was led to speak to the gentleman. Sometimes I'm not led to speak to people, but this one was like, yeah, talk to this guy. And what happened is the conversation led to us getting to him sharing some details about his life. And he shared that he had been laid off, I think about 8 months prior. And so Uber was like the thing that he's doing, to keep afloat and whatnot. And as we just dive more and more into the conversation, it reminded me of my life. And it also reminded me of some things that I had recently kind of come into, some things that I had previously read. And, one thing was a clip of an interview with a gentleman named Robert Greene. I believe that's his name. If you're not familiar with him, he's the one who wrote 48 Laws of Power. And this doesn't really have to do with that passage at all. But he spoke on certain things that surround the chaos theory, that everything connects. And another passage I had read, I believe it's the autobiography. Actually, it's Paul Van Dorn. Stephen Dorn is his son, so please disregard that going forward, alright? But he also said something similar to Robert Greene, and what Robert Greene said was he realized that every random occurrence in his life, everything, whether it was being laid off from a job, whether it was a relationship not going well, whatever he learned, eventually there was a point in his life that the knowledge that he obtained allowed him to really thrive in a certain area because he had this understanding, because he had been through the situation before, because, just etc., etc. And that was the big point of the passage. That was the big point of the clip. And along the same lines, Stephen Dorn, he had said that in his book, if you ever got a chance to read it, he very early in his life worked in a shoe factory. And what happened throughout life, before he actually created the brand Vans, and I don't think I said that earlier, he created the brand Vans, he took on certain parts, certain responsibilities, within the company. He may have been fired here and moved there. He may have, just had to try to fix certain problems. And basically throughout that process, years and years and years of process, he didn't necessarily understand what was transpiring. But in the very end, he had all the knowledge that he needed to run his own company, to know how to build the shoes the best way, to know what providers or distributors to go to know how to design this. And it was all of these random stressful events, all these very, very difficult things to get through. But my thing is, as a human, if we take just a moment to, no matter what situation it is, to look for one, where it's leading you, and two, what you can learn from it, then it's going to compile, and you're going to get to that point where all of that knowledge, all of that difficulty, all of those learning lessons eventually provide you with a foundation to take advantage of an opportunity that's presented to you much later on, and that's just that's just in general the way that I look at life, even my life, and it's the same thing. And that's why I'm just like, okay, this is not something random, yeah. No pun intended, yeah. It's not something random that's just occurring in other people's lives and not mine. I'm experiencing the same exact things where everything that I've been through, every event, that I may not have understood, like, why is this happening? Why me? It made me, for one, into the person that I am today, who I'm very proud to be. But not just that, it supplied me with all the things that I need to not just do exactly what I'm doing right now, recording this podcast itself, but all the things that are transpiring in my life that are now becoming, more fruitful. All the stress, all the difficulties, all the things that are still, maybe unhealed or unresolved, they either pushed me to a place of leaving wherever I was, or it taught me something that I never forgot. And that lesson ended up, bringing certain things to fruition in my life, in the current. And I'm saying all this to say that no matter what you're going through, no matter what's transpiring in your life, if you search for the meaning, if you search for where it's leading you, I promise you, it's leading you to somewhere where you can use that knowledge and that understanding. It's good to be human, you know what I mean? We're all going through things, yeah? And so that doesn't mean to just look for the positive in every single thing, be human. I'm just actually coming off of a rough patch, a couple of weeks. A couple of weeks where I wasn't myself. And, who knows what that was for? Who knows what interaction I would have had if I was outside during that time? Who knows? You know what I mean? Who knows? But I know I needed that time to myself, and I needed to be human. But at the same time, I needed to search inward to figure out what's transpiring. Where is this leading me? Where am I going? And now obviously I'm back, and I'm happy to be. And life continues onward. So I'll just say that to say it's all right to be human. It doesn't mean as soon as something happens, start getting a notebook and just try to figure out, okay, this is what this means. This is where it's guiding me. Be human. Feel what you're feeling, but just understand that every event, whether you're being fired from a job, whether a relationship is consistently not going well, whether an opportunity that you wanted, it's. If you've listened to the previous episodes, it's a similar thing. No matter what's transpiring, it's leading you somewhere. And that's what really the chaos theory is. All these things that are seemingly random, all these, you get what I mean? Like, I know in my life, I've had moments where, let's say, I'm walking down the street, and I have to cross like an intersection or whatever it may be, and the car misses me by 3 seconds. And, I know that's something that may seem small, but for me, it's like, wow, like a year ago, if I had been, 3 seconds earlier somewhere, if I had stayed somewhere a little longer or a little later, or like, that car may have been like right front and center and done took me out this world. I've had a lot of close calls, and when you think of close calls, you think of all the things that led you to be right here in this place. When you have a certain conversation with someone who just so happens to pick you up, or, you just so happen to just cross paths with them, you get what I mean? I think of all the things that led me here, all the decisions that I made, all of the seconds that counted to make this transpire, all of the cogwheels I had to turn. And it makes me grateful for everything. It makes me grateful for the things that I perceive as bad, the things that I perceive as good, the interactions with people where they've done me wrong, the interactions with people that have done me well, because every single one of those shaped me, and it shaped my reality so that later in the future, I could take advantage of those just precise seconds, And that's really the basis of today's talk. Yeah, it's just the chaos that it just may seem random. Trust that it is for the betterment of you, but unfortunately, it will constantly repeat until you make efforts to learn. You make efforts to just look a little deeper and see what it's teaching you, and you make efforts to see where it's leading you. I've had some very traumatic events that have led me to just go to a new place, a new surrounding that I would have never gone to otherwise. You know how, as humans, we try to maybe like plan things out and say, okay, I'm going to do A, B, C, and then life comes and just adds a Y and a Z, and you're going left and right, and it appears just random, right? But the way life goes is just, it'll take you to a place where you couldn't even plan for. You couldn't ever plan for it. And while you're going through it, you may be stressed, you may be lost, you may just be completely flipped around, and chaos kind of has its way of doing that to you. But if you can, just find yourself being still for a moment, being still through the emotion, being still through the difficulty, being still through the turmoil, being still through it, and just looking for where it's leading you, you'll find a certain level of peace. And that peace and that breath is going to allow you to think, because it's hard to think when you're panicking, right? It's very, very hard to think when you're panicking. But if you can just have that stillness to just look for a moment in between what's going on and just say, where is this leading me to? What can I learn from this? You'll find just such a certain level of stillness. No matter what's transpiring around you, you'll have this stillness that no one can take from you. You'll have this joy that no one can take from you, that no one can steal from you. So I'll stop repeating myself, but I just encourage you throughout your days to look for the meaning, look for where things are guiding you throughout your life. And if you pay attention to those, maybe write them down, And it's not something that's going to happen in 3 seconds. It's not something that's going to happen, in a day. It may take a while. But if you're constantly looking inward, if you're constantly looking at your surroundings for where things are leading you and what you can learn from them, I promise you that knowledge and that guidance is going to compile. And there's going to be a day where you fully understand why you went through the things that you went through. Yeah? So, thank you for listening. If you listen this far, I just want you to understand that there is no step too small and there is no goal too big, okay? One small step is all right. A little bit of progress every day, it compounds together, all right? So I believe in you, and you don't deserve to die. You deserve to live. So hopefully I've helped you a bit, huh? Much love. Ashe.